Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Welcome back to the We Talk Football podcast. It's Thursday, the 25th of February. There's been some big games, but most importantly, Quakes, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm all good, man. I'm all good. It's almost a weekend. Can't really complain of how this week's gone. We've actually got quite a few videos out and increased our content output. So, yeah, man, I'm all good. How you doing?
I'm all good, man. Like I said the other day, it's I feel like everyone's feeling a little bit more positive now that we've got these loose dates. And I want to say loose because, you wouldn't be surprised if they get pushed back. But I feel like everyone's a little bit more motivated. Everyone's looking a little bit, happier. The sun's out, life's looking a little bit more rosy than what it was a few weeks ago. So for me, personally, feeling more motivated. Can't wait to get back in the gym, lift some weights, eat some food, and hopefully get myself in London in the next few weeks. So me and you can become the biggest football podcast in the game.
En route, mate.
We're on our way. It's inevitable. But anyway, yeah, you want to talk a little bit about Tottenham, right?
Yeah, so obviously Tottenham won 4-0 yesterday against Wolfsberger. To be expected, they won 8-1 in aggregate. But I feel like the key takeaways from that game was the upturn in form of Dele Alli and obviously Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale previously performing quite well against West Ham in the second half of their game where they lost 2-1.
Didn't matter, did it? Didn't matter.
Yeah, it didn't matter. West Ham shut them out. But
Luck off.
Yeah, I think like with Dele Alli, it'll be interesting to see if he can actually play his way back into Jose Mourinho's side, because all the indications seemed like he was done. He was frozen out of the team. There was kind of talks about him maybe reuniting with Poch in PSG. But with this performance, granted it was against Wolfsberger, who they expected to beat, we'll see if Dele Alli can actually work his way back into Jose Mourinho's side. Because if he can, an attack of Son, Kane, Ali and Bale on paper is formidable. So it'll be interesting to see how this one progresses. What's your thoughts on that?
For sure. I mean, I didn't get a chance to watch the game. I saw the highlights. So obviously, that's a snapshot of the game. Doesn't really give a full indication of how they played. But obviously, Ali scored the outrageous goal. We put the post up on our social media saying who did it better, him or Giroud. Personally, in my book, I think it was Dele Alli, because I think the way he controlled that ball, put it up in the air, boom, bottom corner, unbelievable. But yeah, Dele Alli was pulling strings. Obviously, got an assist and set up the Bale goal. Bale with a great finish. I think, yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, you've got to look at the level of opponents firstly, and say they won 8-1, and it's early doors. But as we've always said, looking at it from a general football fan perspective, you've got all these young English players starting to perform at different clubs that weren't in the favoured England setup. And, if Dele Alli can continue to keep playing well, he could be a dark horse just like Jesse Lingard. You want to see it happen because he's a young English player, but how long that will be at Tottenham, who knows?
Yeah, I feel like with Dele Alli, everybody knows the talent is apparent. Like 3-4 years ago, he was one of the hottest talents in the world. And he's kind of gone off the boil, whether it's to do with the change in management, where he might have had a close bond with Poch, and where Jose Mourinho plays a certain kind of style and expects different things from players. That might be a contributing factor. And I think Dele Alli might also have to look at himself in terms of his own personal development and ask himself why he isn't getting selected by Mourinho. It was highlighted in the Tottenham documentary, the Amazon one, that Jose identified straight away that Dele Alli was not a weak trainer, but he was kind of lazy in training. So that might be a contributing factor. But if he carries on putting performances, it's undoubted how good Dele Alli is, and Tottenham will need him going forward if they hope to win a trophy this season or even challenge for a top 4 place.
For sure. Again, his quality has never been any secret. And for anyone that's new to the channel, you can go back and listen to some of our original podcast episodes where we had academy players on the channel, and they were all talking about in their academy days when they'd play Dele Alli and he'd be playing a few years up, and you could just see how good he was as a player. As I said, he's been on the periphery of football for a very, very long time. He's been doing it in the Premier League for years. You'd like to see him, get back into some form and force his way into the Tottenham setup. It's just whether Jose is going to allow that, because Jose has notoriously caused problems for choice players across most clubs that he's ever been at.
Do you think that he goes to the Euros if he carries on performing, or do you reckon he's making the push a little bit too late?
It's such a difficult question to answer because there's so many players. You've got 4 players that are already going to be in the reckoning, and James Maddison might not go. So obviously with Grealish, Foden, Mount and Maddison, they're the four front runners. But then you get in players like Lingard, for example, who's starting to play well. I know he scored 3 goals in 4 Premier League games. If Dele Alli, I know he hasn't really done it in the Premier League yet because he hasn't really been given much opportunity. But if he starts to put in performances, who's to say who could go? But
what about Gareth? What about Gareth Bale? Obviously, Gareth Bale's going to the Euros of Wales. He's their talisman. But do you think that we're going to see a better Gareth Bale in the second half of the season? Do you reckon Jose's going to utilise him more, or do you think the competition that he's playing in the Europa League means that he's shining more than he would if he was regularly starting in the Premier League?
Well, one thing's certain. Anyone who's watching Real Madrid at the moment, obviously they scraped a 1-0 win last night against Atalanta, who were unfortunate to get a player sent off. He would improve Real Madrid at the moment. They're bang average. Gareth Bale, he's not the player he was 5-6 years ago. Fine, but he's still a world-class player, capable of producing world-class moments. And Tottenham are going through a rough patch. Dele Alli and Gareth Bale putting this performance in Europe are only going to help their chances in the long run. And it would be nice to see them. Well, it'd be nice to see them in the Premier League. As a West Ham fan, I don't want Tottenham to win anything, but it would be nice to see these players given a chance. And, like I said to you a few months ago, when we were talking about how Gareth Bale hadn't made an impact, it was at a point when Harry Kane and Son were, tearing up the Premier League. They were statistically going to be the greatest Premier League duo of all time because of the amount of assists and goals they were scoring. They probably could still beat that. It's just it would be nice to see that now Tottenham are faltering, the both of them given a little bit more opportunity in the side, and seeing where things progress for Tottenham, because there is a growing divide. Just from texting a few of my friends that are Tottenham fans, you can see that the patience levels with Mourinho are starting to get to that point where it's like, okay, something needs to happen now. And if they don't end up winning a trophy this year, things are going to be rocky for them for sure.
Yeah, it will only benefit Mourinho to play those two players going forward, because if Spurs don't make the top 4, don't win the trophy, and Ali and Bale are still hung out to dry, then Mourinho's just he's going to be in trouble, because those are players that carry favour with Spurs fans. Ali, because they bought him as a youngster and he's performed there for years, and Bale because he's basically a Tottenham legend and that's where he's made his name. So Mourinho's going to be forced to play them. It's going to be interesting to see how well they perform when they do get their opportunities in the Premier League.
Agreed. But talking about other Premier League sides, Man City, they're being shouted at the moment. Obviously, they're putting another good performance last night, made it 19 unbeaten in all competitions. I'm looking forward to playing them on the weekend. Yeah. What do you think their chances of winning the quadruple are?
Oh, the thing is, it hasn't been as much recently, but I remember when we were growing up, maybe when we were in secondary school, and there'd be a team that maybe was running away with it, whether it was United in their pomp or Chelsea in their pomp, and they get to like January, February time, and then that team would be in all competitions, and it'd be like, can they win the quadruple? And Man City can win the quadruple. They definitely can. They've got the ability. They've got the players in the squad, especially the players returning back from injuries, such as Aguero and KDB. But I feel like it's just such an ask to win 4 competitions. You've got to make sure that your quality all the way through, and you also have that slice of luck, because there's going to be a stage or point in the Champions League where it's not going to be a case where Man City's quality shining through. It's going to be a refereeing decision, a VAR decision, like a mistake, and you've got to make sure that that all goes right for you in all competitions to ensure that you win all 4 trophies. And I feel like the chance of it is slim, but if anyone's going to do it, it will be the City team, just because of the lay of the land in terms of where the other teams are at, and also Man City's quality and how they're playing at the moment. What do you think about it?
I agree. They're the only British team ever to win the domestic treble. So like no other team's done that. So when you look at the rest of the league and where the rest of the league are at, you wouldn't be surprised if they bagged those 3 trophies. When I look at Europe as well, you've only got to look across Europe and see how weak some of the leagues look. Look at Chelsea. Chelsea have been stuttering in the league for quite some time, played top of La Liga, and they looked bang average, in Atletico. I look across Europe and I only see 2 teams really being able to potentially trouble them. And I think that's PSG and Munich. I think Mbappe's really got a point to prove. If they get Neymar back in time, he's really got a point to prove after last year losing in the final. Munich are the current champions and look
Yeah.
Would you like them to win it? Though? Would you like City to win the quadruple?
I'm not one of these guys who's like, oh yeah, if my team goes out, I want another British team to do well in Europe. I'm kind of like, they're our most direct rivals, the other British teams that are in Europe. But if it was on, say City had wrapped up the Premier League, they'd beaten Spurs in the League Cup final, they were in the final, the FA Cup final of the Champions League, I would want them to do it just so I could say I've witnessed history. But I think if City go and win the quadruple this year, they're almost unassailable in terms of the pantheon of football. So if you're trying to talk about teams that are the greatest teams of all time, no matter what your team does, like if your team goes undefeated but they only win the Premier League, or if your team wins the Premier League and the Champions League but they don't win the FA Cup and League Cup, you will never be able to reach that City team. Because I think if the team's going to do the quadruple, it's only going to be done once. There's only one team that's done the actual treble, like the proper treble, and that's United in '99. If City go and do the quadruple, that's unassailable. So I'd like to see it for history, but obviously being a Chelsea fan, I always want my team to be doing the best thing. So I don't know, I'll be kind of torn, but I think if they're in the Champions League final and they're on for the quadruple, I want to see City win that, unless they're playing against Chelsea.
For sure, because the Champions League has escaped Pep Guardiola for quite some time now. I think it's like 9 years, something like that, isn't it? I think it's 2011. Yes. I think you last won it.
Yes, 2011. It's crazy because like you talk about the two, maybe Mourinho less so, but the two kind of most esteemed and the managers that have won the most trophies. In Guardiola and Mourinho. Mourinho hasn't won it for 11 years, since 2010, and Guardiola hasn't won the Champions League since 2011, like you said, in 10 years. And Ancelotti, who's probably like the next one on the list, or maybe he surpassed them in terms of success in the Champions League. He hasn't won the Champions League since 2014 with Real Madrid. So it's like, it's hard to kind of pin it down. It's hard to say, I'm going to bring a manager in to win the Champions League. It kind of happens when it happens. It's kind of like a beautiful kind of symphony of like mess with the Champions League. And so like it'll be impossible to call who's going to win it, but I definitely say City are favourites, and Pep Guardiola, like you said, does need to bag another Champions League for his legacy. So it'll be interesting to see how it develops.
For sure, because I feel like if he doesn't win it this season, it's another season where does he go again? You know, it's one of those circumstances, and I think the circumstances they find themselves in now, especially in this COVID fueled season, is prime opportunity for them, because I think the rest of Europe does look very weak. Like look at West Ham, for example. We're fourth in the Premier League table. It shows you how mad football is this year.
Yeah, but I don't even like with the West Ham thing. I know there wasn't one of the topics on the running order, but with West Ham, I was looking at it and I was like, is it poor Premier League or is it good West Ham? And I feel like with the other leagues, I think Spain is dropping off. It's dropping off a cliff in terms of the level of it. But I feel like with West Ham and with Everton and with those teams that are challenging for the established top four places, I feel like those teams have kind of closed the gap. I don't think obviously the other teams have come down, but I feel like West Ham and Everton and these other teams are closing the gap and have been good enough to warrant those places, regardless of a pandemic or not.
For sure. I mean, again, not to go too far into the West Ham rabbit hole, but if you look at the West Ham squad and you look at statistics behind some of the players, there are multiple players like Soucek, Safal, Cresswell, that are in the 99th percentile for their respective positions in certain attributes you would attribute to the game. You've only got to look at the heat maps of most of the players. And the reason West Ham are in the position that they are is because of David Moyes and the players he's gone out and bought. With those players being able to play in multiple positions and do multiple roles for the team, as opposed to being a very binary attacking player or a defensive player. You have players that can do both things on both ends of the field, and it's kind of just amalgamating into a machine that are making West Ham a hard team to beat.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah,
I think this West Ham team would beat your team of 2016.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like they would like trounce them. You know, they'd squeeze. It wouldn't be as exciting to watch, but they'd squeeze the life out of them. And that was a season where like you'd say all the top teams were in their pomp. So I think West Ham have to be, as much as I don't like to say it because you're a West Ham fan, they have to be given credit this season for them.
Well, the distinctive difference between that team and the team we have this season, obviously, is Dimitri Payet. Dimitri Payet's brilliance was the reason that we did so well that season. And now we are more of a team. You know, we were like, there's contributions all over the pitch, whether it's Antonio, Jared Bowen, you know, Lingard, Fornals. You know, we have multiple players that can play in multiple positions and do multiple things over the field. And then we have a machine in Souček and Rice that, you know, you could argue the best player out of both teams is probably Declan Rice, followed by Dimitri Payet. You know, and
well,
one of those.
Off the back of that Payet thing, obviously his performances in that season led him to being selected for France in the 2016 Euros. And obviously we had news come through today. It's not been confirmed that the Euros might solely be held in England, in the UK. So what's your thoughts on that? Like, football is actually coming home, it looks like.
Well, mate,
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Can you imagine, like, oh, mate, pub gardens on the June 22nd, and then if there's football in this country, mate, draw back to the World Cup a couple of years ago and the feel-good factor that everyone had, you know. This time, add in a year and a half by this point of, you know, restrictions, and everyone's going to go mental. Everyone's going to go mental. Imagine if imagine if England actually do well, you know.
Mate, it will be absolutely bonkers. Because obviously the idea of the Euros being spread about different countries in Europe would have been cool if borders were open, and we would have taken We Talk Football on the road. We would have gone to different countries and kind of experienced the whole fan experience. But the fact that it's just going to be in this country, and like you say, everyone being cooped up, it's going to be a madness. It's going to be an absolute madness if it's just in England, and we'll be enjoying ourselves, to say the least.
Yeah, well, it's going to be exciting. Well, fingers crossed. Everything goes back to normal. But it's going to be an exciting few months, especially in football, and seeing where we stand in the next 6 months is going to be a madness. Because if West Ham get Champions League and then England do well, I think this is probably top year of my life, mate. Top year of my life.
Mate, yeah, like, it's like so ironic. Like the year that Brexit was confirmed, everybody's looking to get into Europe, whether it's through like European places in the Premier League or in the Euro. So it's going to be interesting to see how the story unfolds. But yeah, man, I reckon it's probably the best time to kind of wrap it up.
For sure.
Make sure you follow us on socials. It's We Talk Football Podcast on Instagram. It's WTF Podcast. WTF Podcast 90 on Twitter. We Talk Football Podcast on Facebook. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Music. You know where to find us. And make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. We're growing on YouTube, guys.
For sure. Links are in the description for all the socials as well, guys. And like, subscribe, and support us. Appreciate it.
Sweet.